Alright, everybody, this is take 2 of trying to make this video, so let's see if I can, remember everything that I said last time and say it again, and, not screw it up this time. So today, we're gonna be reviewing another anime that is going to be the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen, because that is all we have so far. Now, Jujutsu Kaisen is, um is different enough from most of the anime that I've picked up recently because it was just hyped to such a degree. Like, the only thing that I could say was as hyped as this was in the last couple of years, which is funny because it's the exact same year as Attack on Titan season 4, which is also funny because it's animated by the same studio. Um, but the thing with Attack on Titan is it took, you know, 8 years of the anime being out to build that much hype. JJK pretty much hit the ground running. Like immediately once it started, everybody was like Jujutsu Kaisen, Jujutsu Kaisen, JJK, JJK. Have you seen JJK? Do you watch Jujutsu Kaisen? And I'm just like, I don't even know what it is. I hadn't looked into it because the thing is with me, I don't want to be advertised to on that level. Like if a friend of mine tells me to check out an anime, it'll go on my anime list so that I can get to it eventually. But if the entire Twitter is telling me to watch something, the likelihood of me watching it goes down significantly. And the reason that I watched this is the same reason that I watched My Hero Academia last year. My friend Michael, who is now my roommate, recommended it to me, and we watched through the first couple episodes together, and I was immediately hooked. I was nabbed by this show immediately. Needless to say, it it lived up to the hype. It lived up to the hype. I will admit. Um, now the thing about Jujutsu Kaisen that I'm going to say that might be controversial to some of you is that as far as the characters and the general setting type beat and the story and the plot structure and all that stuff, it doesn't do too much that's wholly unique. Uh, and that's not a bad thing. All I'm saying is that most of the things that you see in this show you've probably seen in other shonen anime if you've been watching shonen for any length of time. Shonen is most Westerners' most viewed anime. I feel genre. I guess I feel like so. Well, is shonen even a genre? It's just a type, right? Whatever. Uh, you've seen protagonists like Itadori. The good the guy who wants to be good and get stronger and protect his friends and do the right thing. That's totally fine. He's a lot like Ichigo, Naruto, even Deku, in that way. Which I'm not saying that Yuji is on the same level as Deku because Yuji actually has a reason for his motivations. And I actually really connect with his motivation. Wanting to ensure that he can protect as many people as possible so that nobody has to die in an unjust or unfair way. He wants everybody to die surrounded by people that love them and that they love, peacefully, satisfied with their lives because his grandfather didn't get to have that. I respect that. I totally rock with that. I love that. I really like Yuji. He's my favorite character in the show, actually, which is rare. And I'll get back to that in a second. But the setting is very akin to Bleach, even Demon Slayer a little bit. Uh, which, if you've seen all three of these shows, then you know exactly why I say it's kind of similar to Demon Slayer. Um, Fushiguro, kind of like Uryu, kind of like Sasuke, that kind of thing. Kugisaki, kind of like Sakura, you know. And none of that is bad at all. It's just you see these types of tropes the more you watch anime, and you're able to more easily identify it. Another thing, Yuji having that demon inside of him, like Clover, Naruto, you see it in some places, even Attack on Titan. And what it comes down to, how a show can set itself apart from these contemporaries when it has so many similarities with other shows, is its execution and its presentation. Luckily, this show nails those two categories. It is, oh man, it's one of the most consistently well animated shows I've ever seen as far as anime goes. Um Mappa isn't really a studio that I'd heard of before I found out that they were doing Attack on Titan season 4, but then I found out they were doing God of High School, and then I found out that they were doing Jujutsu Kaisen. By the way, they did a lot of stuff last year, like Dodo Hey Dodo. But they they were very clearly given time and money to do Jujutsu Kaisen because goodness gracious, it's so clean, frame to frame, scene to scene, even in moments of downtime, even when moments are supposed to just be comedic relief, so the characters' faces turn into something else or whatever. Even stuff like that is super well done and very carefully animated, and it's so clean. It's so good to see. The only anime that I would say has moment to moment animation on a standard like that would be uh maybe My Hero and maybe Demon Slayer. Um Demon Slayer uses CGI sometimes, and that CGI is very noticeable. Fire Force is also really well animated moment to moment. Speaking of Fire Force, in my Fire Force review, I know I said that that was my favorite anime that I had seen in the last couple of years. Now that I'm done with Jujutsu Kaisen, or at least the animated material that we have at our disposal at this current moment in time, I have changed my mind. Jujutsu Kaisen is my favorite. I'm sorry. It's not my favorite anime of all time, but it's damn good, and it's my favorite that I've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. And that includes JoJo. But I mentioned uh, what did I say? I mentioned something earlier that I wanted to come back to, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it is. So that's oh yeah. It's interesting to me that Itadori is my favorite character because for the most part, I have a rule when it comes to anime: a show is only as good as its supporting cast. And the supporting cast in the show is great. I really do love it. I love the dynamic between Itadori, Kugasaki, and Fushiguro. I think they're all sweet kids that care a lot about each other. So it's actually a really good representation of a realistic friendship between teenagers because not everybody's going to be emotionally vulnerable with people. That's just not how that always works. But they're very capable of being real with each other and being open and honest about how they feel with each other, and I love that. They're so considerate and careful when it comes to each other's feelings, especially the bit in the season finale where Itadori, separately from Kugisaki and Fushiguro, realize that the stronger Yuji gets by consuming more of Sukuna's fingers, the stronger cursed spirits he'll attract, and the more people might get hurt. Both of these parties come to these realizations on their own, completely independently of each other, but don't want to tell the other one about it because they don't want to trouble the other. And I love that. I really appreciate seeing stuff like that in this kind of show. Another thing I really appreciate seeing is characters like like Gojo. I love Gojo. He's my favorite type of character in any story. Just a character that's just so fuck you strong that he has nothing to be concerned about. So he's just super laid back and chill about everything because it's like, hey, nobody can beat my ass, so why do I ever need to be worried about anything? I love characters like that. As far as like a mentor teacher, I like the role he plays because it's not exactly like Kakashi, even though aesthetically he's definitely a Kakashi parallel. Kakashi is a he's a rough teacher, but he's also compassionate and understanding. The way that he trained Team Seven in Part One of Naruto versus the way that he trained Naruto and Shippuden to hone his chakra nature, very different. The way that he was in Shippuden is closer to how Gojo is, but Gojo is still even more hands off. He's just like, hey, I've demonstrated what you need to do. I've given you your assignment. I'll see you. I like training like that because Gojo doesn't seem like the best educator. And also, I'm glad that we are not even getting like an explanation as to why he's so strong because honestly, I don't care. He just is. He's just that man. I'm sure that this movie that's coming out might cover something to that effect. I don't really care though. What I do care about is the fact that for 24 episodes of anime, we have one, two, three, four, five, 6 arcs, and they're all good. They all get increasingly more interesting. I love the first couple episodes as they introduce all of our characters and the world that it's going to take place in, and then the stakes get immediately set super high when Yuji dies. Yuji dies, and both Fushiguro and Kugasaki are both very visibly and noticeably devastated by that news. And Fushiguro, uses it as a motivator to get stronger so that that type of stuff doesn't happen. And I love that. Yuji obviously survives and he does his training and he goes on that arc with Junpei. By the way, I will never forgive Mappa for what they did. That was the most gotcha shit ever. They put Junpei in the opening sequence, hanging out with Yuji, wearing a jujutsu robe, making it seem like he was going to be a main character, and then he died. And he's dead. He's dead, and it don't look like he's coming back. Man, I also really like Nanami. That was pretty cool. But yeah, man. Um, uh, Pretty much like every subsequent arc was increasingly more interesting than the previous one for many reasons. Especially as more and more side characters got added. Which, by the way, this show is pretty much uncontested when it comes to introducing more and more side characters and giving you time enough with each single one of them to develop an attachment and an emotional connection with each character. Panda, Mekamaru, even Maki, Mai, Toto, uh, the guy from the Zenin clan, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me, as well as the guy who can only speak in food, and the broom witch girl. I can't remember everybody's name, but you get enough time with most of these characters to actually form a significant emotional attachment, and I really appreciate that. It's balanced a whole hell of a lot better than the Chunin exams in Naruto, because most anime, as far as like battle shonen take place in a school type of setting, will have a tournament arc of some kind. Dragon Ball has a world tournament. Uh, My Hero has the UA Sports Festival, and Jujutsu Kaisen has the Goodwill event, stuff like that. And if you're gonna have a tournament arc, it had better well be compelling, and luckily it was. Um, I like that. I like that there's a reason this time around. As for like these things that would normally take place without any issue, suddenly get just fucking hit up by the main villain just because the main character's there. This time, it's because Yuji is a walking cursed spirit magnet. So he just attracts this type of attention. Totally makes sense. My Hero, I have absolutely no clue why the League of Villains started doing what they were doing once Deku showed up at UA High School. Makes zero sense to me, honestly. But hey, I'll take it. I will take it. Naruto, I mean, he does have the nine-tailed fox, so I'll give it a pass. Dragon Ball, no reason. I don't know why Piccolo decided to do what he was doing right when he did it, but hey. And not to say that every single thing needs to have some sort of layered, multidimensional meaning or reasoning behind it. It just, I don't like when things feel convenient, and sometimes it does. Another thing that this arc does is it demonstrates the show's ability to get Gojo out of the story at certain times, because I love Gojo, I do, but he's so strong. He's just so strong, and it's a bit of a problem, or at least it would be if it was like, okay, every time the kids get in trouble, Gojo has to show up and save the day, because he can. Nobody can beat him, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, at least. So the tricky thing to do becomes, how do you keep the stakes high and interesting while Gojo still exists? The kids have to have their time to shine to do things, and it's also cool seeing Yuji function without relying on Sukuna's strength. I love that. But above it all, you have to keep these god tier level characters out of the main conflict when you can, because you have to have stakes, you have to have tension, and you have to have something pushing the story forward. And I think that they typically do a pretty good job of that, and I really appreciate it. Another thing this show does, it's really good at making you feel bad for the enemies, and when it wants to. You don't always feel bad, but when you're meant to, You do, especially in the final arc when you find out that these guys were the product of like a lot of messed up stuff happened to get these characters to where they were. But the worst part about it all is that they were just guys and they were forced to eat these cursed objects, and now they're humans with cursed spirits inside of them, and they have to be exorcised anyway. And it's like, man, that sucks. But soundtrack, animation, voice acting, the dub is also really good. Character design, plot structure, there's just so much good stuff working for this show. And if I were to put it on a number scale, Jujutsu Kaisen so far is like a 9.9 out of 10. You know? It would be a 10, but there's not enough boobs. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Toto was more than enough boob for me. Anyway, Jujutsu Kaisen, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever it is, whatever you think, I'm a below and educate me as always. And more videos from me, go and click some on the screen to take another video on, and I'll see you very soon. Also, you should subscribe and maybe buy my shirts. Or follow me on Twitch. Twitch will be in the description. You can also become a channel member. Or you can go to the Patreon. There's a lot of ways you can support me. I need it. I'm starving. Anyway, all that being said, I'll see you very soon.